Welcome to AI Rounds, your weekly dose of AI in medicine and education.
We are your hosts, Dr. Nuria and
And Dr. Morgan Leaf. Each week, we'll bring you a quick dive into the latest in artificial intelligence and how it's transforming healthcare, medical education, and medical communications.
From the tools changing how we teach, learn, and write, to breakthroughs shaping patient care. If it's new, exciting, or just plain useful, we're talking about it.
In just 10 to 15 minutes, we'll get you up to speed and maybe even spark your next big idea.
Let's make the rounds. Hi, Morgan.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I was just talking to my husband David, and he was like, "Oh, you're gonna go upstairs and record a podcast with Dr. Leaf?" And I was like, "Yes." And it's funny because then I was coming upstairs and I was like, "Oh, I'll call you Dr. Morgan." And then I was like, "No, in America you don't say doctor first name, you say doctor last name." So hi, Dr. Leaf.
Well, hello, Dr. Negrao. How are you?
I'm good. How are you
We
doing?
were going to be so formal in this podcast today.
It's just it's like inspired by David.
Well, I'm glad to know that he calls me by my title when I'm not there. Tell him I
Full
appreciate that.
title. Yes, exactly. As you deserve, as is correct.
Well, speaking of which, it was good to see you both recently at the Alliance Conference in Atlanta.
Yes, that was so nice. We were there for like a week, right? And it was nice to hang out, to see you in person, and also like all of our other friends. And you had met David before, but yeah, he always likes hanging out with you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a
Mhm.
lot of fun. And once again, for the third year in a row, AI was a hot topic, right?
Oh, yes. There was, I think, every single time point had an AI talk except
Mhm.
for maybe one.
Yeah.
And the keynotes were not about AI this time. But apart from that, every single slot had at least one AI talk. There were two slots that had two AI talks, so I couldn't go to all of them because I had to miss two. But yes,
You went to most of them, though.
yes, I did. Yeah.
And I went to the 2 that you gave,
Mm-hmm.
and the first one was with Andy Bowser, and you
Mm-hmm.
talked about the AI task force for the Alliance, and it seemed like the big takeaway from that was every year more and more people are incorporating AI into their workflows. Is that
Oh,
what
yeah.
you would say is the number one lesson from the survey?
Yes, I think so. Like a lot of people are incorporating it, people are using it, but at the same time, there's been no training. No one has been trained on
Yeah.
how to use it, and people talk about like this uncertainty with how to use it effectively, how to use it safely. So like people are experimenting, and they're not feeling too safe around it. So I think it's like a really good case for the need for more education, basically, around AI. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the exercises? So we had
Yeah.
everyone, like, we had 4 custom GPTs. Which one was your about?
Ours was quality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was like
So
how to design a quality control flow if you're using AI in at work, right?
right. So the
Mhm.
exercises that we went through in small groups were about how to incorporate AI into your workflow thoughtfully. Because still, even though we've been talking about this for a long time now, there's companies that are saying you can't use AI. Actually, my husband is a writer and he writes for Outside Magazine, and they just told all the writers last week you can't use AI in your writing
Yeah.
without anything sort of more thoughtful to it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and without implementing a policy and talking
Mhm.
about what could be used here but not here. And so the exercises took us through very logically, step by
Mhm.
step, how to figure that out for an organization. And to me, it felt applicable even to my business, which is for the most part an organization of one. I do have subcontractors, but it felt like
Mhm.
something I could even do on my own so that I have some type of written policy that when clients ask how I use AI, I can just give it to them or
Mhm.
say, you can't use AI. I can say, well, here's how I use it. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So that I thought that was really useful. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And tell me, were there lots of conversation like in the corridors about AI? What's the
I mean,
gossip?
I think a lot of people were just commenting about, yeah, it's still such a popular topic. It's still
Yeah.
something everybody wants to hear about because there were so
Mhm.
many talks about it. That's all I heard. What did you hear? I'm sure people just come up to you all day to talk about AI.
Yes, there was a lot of talk about AI and lots of people asking questions like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Which tool is the best tool? But one thing that I felt was really, in my point of view, rewarding was that there were lots of talks by various different people, and people were engaging with the topic in a much deeper level in the talks that were given
Mhm.
compared to previous years. So it was not like AI exists, and it
Yeah.
was more like, this is how we are using it in our organization, or this is what we are worried about. This is like specific ways that I don't think people like. There was a full talk that was like basically an argument against using AI for standardized patients or to substitute
Mm.
standardized patients. So that just shows, and at the same time, there was another talk the following day about how to use standardized patients. So there was
Yeah.
the view pro and the view against, which like it just shows that the discussion is getting richer, that the debate is getting richer, which I really appreciate. That was very rewarding to me. And there were quite a few talks that were focused on like the thinking about how do we think about the governance of using AI.
Right.
So yeah, so that for me was very rewarding. I really enjoyed all of that. And then you also went to our AI debate. So
I
what did you think about the debate? Did you
I thought
think
it
it
was
worked?
great. I loved the whole panel. I thought everybody had a good came from a different background and had sort of a different viewpoint to bring to the table, so that was
Yeah.
really helpful. I appreciated the thoughtful questions that you all talked about, and, when you guys were first playing that, I was a little skeptical because I was like, is this just gonna be like, we should use AI, we shouldn't use AI kind of talk? Like,
Uh-huh.
of course, that's not what it was. It was
Yeah.
more nuanced than that. So on specific points and, how do you use this or what do you think about this? I thought that you and
Hmm.
Andy Krim had a good discussion about, and we're gonna talk about this in an upcoming
Hmm.
podcast episode, how AI increases your efficiency and makes you able to do more work, but then kind of what does that do for your mental health that you're now
Yeah.
doing twice
Yeah.
as much work as you used to, even if you're doing it faster? So I appreciate that. I liked that you guys talked about the environmental impact. That's always
Hmm.
something that comes up in a
Yeah.
discussion about AI. And I'm keeping Andy's factoid with me about the golf courses. Golf courses use more
Yeah.
water than AI because
Hmm.
I appreciate that. I think I never want to ignore an environmental concern, but I think sometimes people think about it out of context and it needs a little bit of context.
Yeah. It was funny during the preparation for this debate, Andy kept on like, he would drop in like all of these facts. And I was like, okay, Andy brings the facts.
Yeah,
The rest of us bring the opinions.
that's funny.
It was super funny. So, but then I was like, buddy, listen, you need to bring these facts to the actual debate because they will
Yeah,
be interesting. Yeah. Also, like, I think another thing that people are talking about is like, it's not like whatever it is, however it is that we are doing things now has before or without AI has no environmental impact, right? A Google search also has an environmental impact. So if you're doing like 10 Google searches for something that AI can answer in one back and forth conversation, maybe the AI is faster. Is
yeah,
more efficient than you digging through all of these Google results, then go opening pages, then read. Not only energy wise and in terms of like using the servers, but also in
mhm,
terms of your own, like it's your time, so like that is
yeah,
time spent there, like your
mhm,
energy also counts.
right, right.
Yeah, and mental load.
I'm interested to hear what was the argument against using AI for standardized patients?
Oh, so that was very interesting, very thoughtful. So it's a little bit about we know what the problems with AI are. So the amplification of bias, you can't really control it. So that is part of it, right? Is now you have, if you're creating standardized patients with AI, you're kind of like averaging out
Mhm.
everyone that patient type into that patient avatar that you're creating. And because you'd be relying on the LLM's knowledge for like pre-trained knowledge to do a lot of the heavy lifting, even if you design this patient, it is very hard to code it in a way that it wouldn't be coming up with the same biases that we see in society, right? So that is one part of it. And then the other part of it is that we also know from studies that when doctors, students interact with AI avatars, they don't interact in the same way as they would with a real person.
Yeah.
So, like, one should never underestimate the need for actual trained actors, right? Patients.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So that is the gist of it. I mean, it was a 1 hour talk. She she gave a very passionate and very good argument. Yeah, a very good argument about why we should be very thoughtful about this. And then the other group is a group that is creating patient avatars specifically for clinicians to practice difficult conversations. And they presented with a provider, an education provider, that
Mhm.
used their avatars, and they showed like the results from so the outcomes from that training that they ran, right? And then the argument there is that one, standardized patients are very expensive. You can't always have them. Like, how are you going to have them in rural areas, even in, say, for example, in LA? How are you going to find an authentic, maybe in LA you would, black trans woman in her 50s that
Right.
can be a standardized patient? And maybe you can in LA, but maybe you cannot 2 hours further away from LA, you know what I mean? So what I came away from all of this is that I think it's kind of like what I say with everything, is that I think more and more and more I'm starting to think that we need to be very thoughtful about that there's a place to use AI and a place not to use AI, and we need to be very thoughtful. And maybe we can start with AI avatars, but it would be good for as much as possible for students to be exposed to standardized patients, at least
Mhm.
in training. Because also the reality is that as a licensed physician, I don't think you get exposed to standardized patients anymore, right?
No.
So the
You're
avatars
the
would
real
be the
deal.
only thing. Yeah. So because they're too expensive and only medical schools can afford to employ them, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, so I don't know. What are your thoughts about it? You've so I never dealt with this standardized patient. I've when I was in medical school, we were thrown into the real patients from year
Mhm.
one.
Mhm.
Mozambique has a very hands-on medical training.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different from here. Yeah.
I see both sides of that
Mhm,
argument. I think that absolutely. It's an irreplaceably valuable experience to work with standardized patients and real
yeah,
patients, of course. And also, there is a limit to the
yeah.
number and the time you can get with those, right?
Mm,
Especially at a bigger my medical school class had like over 100 students per class. So
mhm,
it's really a rate limiting variable, how many of those you can get.
yeah.
So I think exactly as you say, it's important for it to be thoughtful. I work with a company that is developing some standardized AI patients. It's not a generative it's not some huge LLM, right? It's their internal program that they're using, and they are creating the
Mhm,
case individually that each avatar is going to present. So well, they had AI come up with the cases. They had us physicians check them to make sure that they were medically realistic.
mhm,
And then they're going to program the avatars to present the information. And then the students are going to interact with it. And then I think the next step is the plan is to a certain extent, AI is going to help give them feedback on those interactions. And I do think that can be helpful in the American medical school system. You know, your
mhm,
first and second year are spent primarily in a classroom setting, and your third and fourth year are spent in a clinical setting. And that's a huge learning curve going from your
mhm,
second to your third year because there's so much you learn in books, but you don't know practically. You don't learn in first and second year how to give a patient advice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is like 90% of pediatric. Oh, here's what you do if your baby has colic, you
Yeah.
know? So for interactions like that, that we don't teach in the first and second year, I think it can be valuable, just as an example. But you're right. It really needs to be on a case by case basis and not done as a substitute for standardized patients because standardized patients are already a substitute for real patients, right? So
Exactly.
we're kind
Yeah.
of like watering it down a little bit more by
Yeah.
going there. But,
Yeah.
but, and of course, you want to eliminate bias. Does having AI standardized patients also help eliminate bias because of what you said, the geography and
Mm-hmm.
how much money a school has? So it could help level the playing field in that way.
Definitely. And I mean, no matter how well trained an actor is, they also have biases, right? So their biases could also come true when they are doing their work as standardized patients and whomever. So like bias is such a complicated thing to deal with. I feel like we should do and instead of or to be both, and some access to real patients as well.
I
From
totally agree.
some spice, some real patient spice.
Well, real patients have
Yes.
spice.
Uh-huh.
So, what's your takeaway from the Alliance and how you already talked about how we talked about AI this year compared to past years, which I think is great. We're
Mhm,
we're getting into it a little bit more. It was even incorporated into talks that weren't exclusively about AI. I went to talk about question
mhm.
writing, and they
Okay,
did an exercise to have AI help you write a question, which was
okay.
great. Where do you see us going? What are we going to be doing at the next conference, you think?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I feel so one thing, my biggest takeaway is that we need more education. Everyone is asking for education and everyone is asking for standards, like for us as a community in continuing medical education to like kind of define the rules of the game. The people want to know that there's a lot of anxiety, like if we use it, how is my neighbor using it? How are the accreditors thinking about it? How are the supporters thinking about it? Are the supporters using AI to score our grant proposals? How do we control for physicians, for faculty using AI in developing? And this is a problem for everyone, but it is especially a problem for non-Macs that have like even I think less contractual defense against physicians just throwing AI made slides at them. So it is like all of these, like how do we manage all of this was like a big discussion everywhere. And again, like people want clear examples, step by step type examples. So I feel like that is going to increase, and maybe we'll have more debates, you know? Maybe we'll have more sessions where this is the pro side and this is the anti side. And I feel like that would be awesome because that would make the whole conversation richer, you know? Like if people are just thinking these things and not putting them out there, we can't move forward, right? Yeah, and me by myself, I can't think all the thoughts. So I kind of need to hear the other point of view, and then I'm like in an open way so that I can be actually, yeah, they're right about, I hadn't thought about this. And then together we can come to a policy or a guideline that like actually is better than what we would have developed by ourselves. So I'm excited to see where it goes next. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to get past, like, totally past the should we or shouldn't we use AI phase and just like, because, I always compare that to like, should we or should we not use Google when that came out, right? Like, it's
Mhm.
going to be such a passe debate. I think it already is. Some
Yeah.
people don't. And just get to like, it's here, it's never going away. We're all using it. How are we using it?
Yeah.
And I hope we continue in that direction because the like, should we or shouldn't we use it for this? I think is stale at this point, and we should
Yeah.
be talking about how we use it so that we're doing it properly. Yeah.
Totally
So I
agree.
hope to see more talks about that next year.
All right. Okay. I think we've exhausted
Yeah. Me
the conversation about AI at the Alliance. So, okay. Thank you, Morgan and Dr. Leaf, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.